Hey guys, Furum here, and today I'm going to be testing the Helicopter RS in multiplayer in Asphalt 9, otherwise known as the Ultima RS. I will be testing it at Golden Max today in the British Tour multiplayer season on 6 different tracks so you can see how it performs in a variety of situations. Please consider subscribing if you have not already, and be sure to check out my Furum Clips channel as well as my Purple Team Discord. You can find the links to those in the description, and I hope you enjoy the video. I'm sure some of you are wondering why I'm not testing this car in its own multiplayer season that just came out. Well, basically, I had already recorded these in the previous season, and I didn't really see much point in scrapping these races to record more in its own season. Plus, you have more variety of cars here and everything, so it should actually be a slightly better test in this season than in its own season, just because we have more cars to compete against. Almost all the races in this video, aside from the first couple, are going to be in Master League, first few are in Elite League, and in this video are some of my best races on my journey to top 50, which I've tried to do quite a bit recently in multiplayer seasons, just at least reaching that at some point, because, well, it's a fun challenge for me, and it makes for more interesting gameplay than playing in lower leagues. In this first race, we beat a couple of other Ultima RSs on Buenos Aires, and one thing that I was wondering, so you guys know that section kind of toward the middle to the end of the track where you have to like go around some S-curves, and there's 2 ways you can do it, but after it, then there's the really sharp turns. Well, what I decided to do in that race there was I went the technically slightly longer, windy way beforehand, but when I got to the S-curves, I was then able to get around them without hitting the curves, whereas the guy who had went the shorter route beforehand did hit the sides and everything. So I was just wondering if there's any merit to taking that slightly longer route before the really tight S-curve so that you don't hit the sides on them, and if so, how you can tell which way is better to do in different cars. I feel like in the Ultima, you can get around the turns fine without hitting the sides because the car drifts so well, but in cars that might not be able to drift as well, I can see it potentially being a benefit to go the other way. I don't know, let me know what you guys think. And speaking of the Ultima's good drifting, that is one of the best of its many great attributes. Driving this car, I was pleasantly surprised, not that I thought it was going to be bad, I knew it was going to be a good car, I just didn't realize just how good it was going to be. The car goes over 270 miles per hour at max, which is very good. I mean, it's not like Jesko or Sheeran level, but still very competitive for multiplayer, and just as fast as something like the Zenvo TS1, which is what I initially compared this car to. If you guys remember in my videos that I talked about this car previously, I said it was going to be like, at least in terms of stats, a Zenvo TS1, the 10th Anniversary Edition in S-Class, but just with better handling. And in a lot of ways, that is what it feels like. It feels like that car, but even more agile. And it's even more fun to drive as well. If you're able to get the Ultima in its special event without spending too many tokens, I suppose I would recommend going for it. However, if you already have the Zenvo or other cars better than the Zenvo already maxed out or at high star levels, this car isn't really going to give you anything more than what you've already got. But it is thoroughly enjoyable, one of the most fun S-Class cars in my opinion, just for throwing around in multiplayer, at least at max, where pretty much all of its stats seem to be at least a little bit above average across the board, because it's nitro, obviously not the longest, but is definitely more than manageable across most of the tracks. And then the acceleration at 81 is fairly average for S-Class, maybe on the slightly lower end, but not as bad as something like the Triumph Nemesis or the Razor or the Jaguar, all of which are below 80. That last race brought us above 1900 rank, and that's something that I don't often get to just because I don't really play seasons enough and like try harding up toward the end to be able to get there, but it seemed easier in this season for some reason. And it seemed like a lot of other people felt that way too, because there were a lot of people above 1900, more so than usual, so I just wanted to see how it would go. And then we got to Auckland, which I think is actually a very good track for this car. It can get around the turns like almost no other very well. I enjoy driving it on this track a lot, and I don't usually enjoy driving too many cars on Auckland, if I'm gonna be honest. There are 3 other Ultimas in this race, and one interesting thing that I noticed when going up in leagues is how much more often the Ultimas were the top cars in the race almost every time, versus in the lower leagues. And this isn't too surprising because a lot of times faster cars require a higher skill level to be able to, well, drive at their top speed and thus place better in general in most of the races. Just an interesting observation. Now we're on to Osaka, where there's another Legions United member rigged freezing, and 6 of the 7 cars are Ultimas. I knew from the get-go that this was going to be kind of a harder race for sure. And this is the thing, whenever you get into the top 100, which I think I was at this point, every little thing you do matters, because everybody is going to be driving at their best, not making many mistakes, so it's really the little things that are important, either taking corners just a little bit better, keeping a little bit more nitro to be able to shockwave up to a higher speed after a turn, not hitting the sides around this turn, which I often end up doing, and so we were able to get into second position after not too long. And here was kind of my mistake. I went over here not with Shockwave, but it ended up being okay. Again, another little mistake here, hitting the side. Thankfully though, no wrecks, and due to the Ultima's rather forgiving nature, I was able to maintain my second place lead, getting further ahead of third place, but not quite catching up to the guy in first place. Exotic Titles, interesting name there, but he was actually a lone wolf, which kind of surprised me since he drove so well throughout this race, and I was not able to really gain much on him throughout the race, and we come in a pretty close second place here, and of course, after the race, my car goes outside the track. Our final race is going to be on Nevada, again against, of course, mostly other Ultima RSs. We do have a McLaren Senna GTR there, though. And now it is time for my general review about this car. It's extremely fun, very agile, super easy to drive, and I would honestly recommend that everybody at least try it out in its multiplayer season. And if you don't have other higher-end S-Class cars, this is one that I can definitely recommend to try to progress as far in the SE as you can, which is going on for it right now as we speak. But if you have any of the S-Class Kings, there's not really much point to going for this one. Now, I had this really crazy little close call there. I was so afraid my car was going to hit the side and then just wreck like it does so often on Nevada, and I was barely able to slide around there, so my heart was beating pretty fast at this point in the race, but it got a little bit better as I saw the guy behind me was falling away ever so slowly. The Ultima has great handling, drifting, and floaty capabilities, which I know are very important to a lot of people nowadays, and I'm still planning to make that video about floaties and stuff at some point. The Ultima's top speed is very decent for its class, and the nitro and acceleration are not too bad either, definitely manageable. And we round the final bend in the race to shockwave up toward the finish line and take the victory to get up to 1959 rating and actually position 36 on the leaderboard. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like the video if you have enjoyed and consider subscribing for more Asphalt, Forza, Minecraft, and other games content. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!